In this lesson, we will get to work on the creature's fall. So the workflow is basically the same. We'd block in our idea, and then we go ahead and refine the animation afterwards. So since we're blocking in our work, let's go ahead and set our default in and out tangent type back to stepped. I'll also go ahead and turn on auto key. I'd like to now go to the left arm controller here. We'll alt right click and choose show trajectories toggle to go ahead and hide that arc. Great. Now let's say we go ahead and add more frames to the end of the sequence. We'll go ahead and hold down Control Alt and drag with our right mouse button over to our left until we've added, let's say, about 60 more frames to our end. So we'll end at about 160, and we could always change this. We can decrease or increase it until we've managed to create a convincing fall. But we don't want that to happen way too slowly, of course, because that might start to annoy the player who's ever attacking this creature. And if it happens too fast, well, it will break the illusion of this creature's weight. So we have to be really careful about that. And that's why it's a good idea to kind of study life, to just get an idea of what the timing should be, and then you can start to experiment and say, hey, maybe this can be sped up a bit more, or maybe we can add a few more frames to add some weight. Let's go to frame 101 now. We'll go ahead and select all of our controls, and let's go ahead and keyframe that frame so that the start of the fall is the end of the anticipation. So if this creature were to go into his attack phase, this would basically be the start of that attack. He'd start here and he'd transition down to the first pose of the attack. But if he's going to fall, remember, this is the point where he would start to fall, where he's vulnerable. So this is where we can go ahead and tag a few soft spots so that he can eventually stumble. All right, let's go ahead and hold down Control Alt, and we'll go ahead and drag with the left mouse button over to our left so we can get rid of all frames before 101. So we're just focused on 101 to 160. What I'd like to do next is go ahead and set a key on 160 so we can always keep track of our range. Alrighty, so now it's time to get to work on the fall. So let's go ahead and really make it seem like he's stumbling. So we'll add a sway to the body, definitely. We'll make sure that the arms flail a bit, things like that. And we could always block in every 10 frames or so again. You don't always have to choose 10 frames. For heavier creatures, I like to work with 10 frames, but for lighter creatures, we can work with, let's say, about 5 frames. So you get the idea, the range you'd like to use. It really depends on your workflow. Let's go ahead and grab the center of gravity. We'll grab the arm controls. And let's go ahead and start to have them kind of fall. So we'll translate them down a bit. Great. And now here's what we can do. We can add some curvature to his spine. So we'll grab his two spine controls. We'll grab our rotate gizmo, and we'll have them kind of twist over a bit. Great. I'd like to now go ahead and grab the thorax and twist that a little bit more in our z-axis. But then for our root, let's go ahead and have that rotate in the opposite direction so it starts to look like he's kind of swaying back and forth. And since he'd be roaring at this point, he's getting struck pretty hard, we can go ahead and take his head control and rotate that up, rotate it around, grab the neck control, and we'll have that rotate in the same direction we've rotated his back and thorax. Great. We want to keep the mouth open until the point where he falls, because the mouth right now is a soft spot that the player can hit before the creature starts to stumble. Right now for the arms, we can have them start flailing. Let's go ahead and take the right arm, and for a bit of drag, we can have that move in towards the body. So we'll go ahead and just translate that in. Great. And then we'll go ahead and grab the wrist and twist that around. We'll go ahead and rotate the wrist in a bit to make sure that that wrist plate doesn't intersect. And then we'll go ahead and take the clavicle and kind of drop that a bit as well, since that arm is falling We want him to loosen up at this point. He's getting weaker. Let's go ahead and take the left arm and we'll have that start swing into the body as well. But we'll bring that up a bit higher, and then we'll go ahead and rotate the wrist in so that it starts to look like a flailing action. Since we've dropped that arm some, let's go to the clavicle, and again on frame 110, we'll go ahead and just start dropping that a bit. Alright, very nice. So this is looking cool. We'll go ahead and take a look at the rest of the pose. Now here's something interesting we can do. By the next pose, what we can do here is start having one of the legs collapse in. So we should get creative with our poses. And though that might seem to be a bit of a challenge, this is great because this will help us to become better animators. So if that leg starts to collapse in, where should the body start falling? So get the idea here. Whatever we can to challenge ourselves to become better. Alright, so let's go ahead and move to frame 120. We'll grab our center of gravity. We'll grab our two arm controls. And we'll not only translate him down some, even more, but we'll also have him translate over to the side a bit in the x-axis, because we're going to have that front right leg start collapsing in. So let's go ahead and grab that, and we'll start to kind of bring that in a bit. Alright, super cool. Next, let's go ahead and take his knee control for that same leg, and we'll go ahead and just translate that around. Let's not forget about the gaster as well. Since that leg is starting to collapse in, we should have the gaster kind of push back a bit. And then eventually we can delay our keys so that we add a sense of follow through and weight, and then we can have a bit of a bounce when we start to smooth out the gaster, just to again show some weight. Alright, so this is looking really nice. Let's go ahead and just scrub back and forth to make sure we like the pose we have. Let's go ahead and add more to this pose on frame 120. So we'll go in, grab the thorax and the back, and let's go ahead and rotate in the opposite direction now. Going to add a bit more of a twist. We'll grab the thorax and we'll go ahead and twist that a bit more in the z-axis. Great. And now for his head control, let's go ahead and have that rotate in that direction as well. When it comes to adding a delay between the neck and head, we can basically offset the keys of our head control. So after we start to refine the animation, we can go ahead and take our head control keys, not all of them. We don't want to mess up our range here, but we can go ahead and grab the keys in between and maybe delay those a bit more so we have a sense of drag as the head starts to sway back and forth. So these are just some ideas of animating follow-through quickly. Again, these are some techniques that we cover in our animation blocking and polishing courses. Let's continue to have the arms flail. So I'll go ahead and take this left arm and maybe throw that out, and then go ahead and rotate the wrist up, not too high, because there's weight here. And then we can go ahead and take the elbow and maybe bring that up a bit. We can go ahead and grab the clavicle and rotate that up since the arm has been brought up a bit more. I might go ahead and go back to the elbow and start dropping that down some. And then we can go ahead and take the right arm and we can have that get thrown out to the right side a bit. Great, we can go ahead and take the wrist and kind of rotate that around and out. And then since we've lifted up that arm some, let's go ahead and make sure we adjust the clavicle. Alright, sweet. Let's go ahead and take a look at our next pose. It almost looks like he's being too dramatic. Like he's saying, oh no, what has happened? So let's go ahead and make sure it looks more lifelike. And I think we can do that by subduing some of this pose here, by bringing it in a bit more. So we'll go ahead and take the left arm and kind of just drop that just a bit so it's not so extreme. Okay, great. So this would be a good stopping point. We've managed to kind of block in our pose to a point where it really feels as if this creature is coming to an end. So let's say we go ahead and stop the lesson here and continue our blocking pass in the next lesson.